So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to the Safe Technology for Santa Barbara County Community Meeting. We intend for this evening to be educational, helpful, hopeful, reality checking, and something that may be new to you, and it might not be new to you, but we hope that this is a very informative evening, and we're so very, very glad that you are here. So Safe Technology is, we exist to educate our community, you, about the adverse cumulative effects of wireless radio frequency radiation, which we call RFR. And we advocate for safe technology. And we think, well, now why would we do this? And why would we put our lives out to do such work? So we're going to cover tonight the agenda. We can go back to the next slide next. So we're just welcoming you, loving you, and thanking you for coming. We're going to give you some general RF radiation education. You get to meet our attorney tonight at 7, and you get to meet the SafeTech team after our attorney, and then we're going to take you through calls to action and Q's and A's. So we're asking you, if you will, use the chat function on the Zoom to put in your questions, and we will be looking at them there and then taking those in the order in which they are written. So thank you very much for that. So I will talk your head off and take you through this rather high-speed presentation, and we'll save your questions to the end. So next. So these are some RF radiation basics. We're going to show you what to look out for in terms of equipment. We're going to tell you what the environmental hazards are. We're going to take you through the biological harms and some safe technology solutions and opportunities. So up on the side, you see here, there's cell phones, cell towers, laptops, tablets, cordless phones, Bluetooth, anything, Wi-Fi, anything. These are some of your sources of wireless radiation. Next. And these small cell wireless facilities, of which there are going to be nationwide, about 800,000 of them installed throughout the nation. It is considered a major federal undertaking. They do have many different forms, and these photos are reflective of pictures in the county and pictures in the city. So here are 4 different types of facilities that you can find in your neighborhood or in your area where you're driving on main arterial roads. Next. And this, did you notice, like this small cell wireless facility installation at Anacapa and Carrillo? You might not ever notice it. You're driving straight down Anacapa, you might not see this, but it's on a street light with a canister that holds over 1,000 small tracking antenna. The city signed a 20-year contract or master license agreement with Verizon to install antenna in our streetlights and on our streetlights. So this is a reason that you need to be alerted to this as well. Next slide. And then look at these across from the Granada in front of the Benchmark Eatery on State and Anapamu. These are what are called fake lampposts. So they will come in this style as well. So you can be bicycling and walking by and driving by and not even know they are there. Next. So they do have to put signage on these facilities, but can you read this at the top of the tower? I couldn't even capture the photo of it, but it will be something to this effect, that keep back 3 feet from this antenna. And you can read that little caution, because if you get within that, you will exceed the FCC's occupational limits and any safety limits that they set for this tower. Next. So if RFR is safe, why do we need all these caution signs? You will see different signs around town like this and on buildings, but we will need a lot more of them. Next. So the question is, these small wireless facilities, or SWIFs or SWFs, should they be hidden without any warning signs? Are the business owners and public being notified? So here's the Santa Barbara Courthouse. You have to stand across the street by the Superior Court looking up at a 45-degree angle to see this massive installation on top of this of our beautiful courthouse. Otherwise, it's completely invisible. This one at State and Las Positas on the Adobe Pet Hospital is actually hidden behind a fake chimney facade. Next. So where are these antennas? How can you find them? So you can go up on antennasearch.com and you can put in your address and your city, click process, and it will bring up a 2-mile radius for you of all the antennas and the towers that are within 2 miles of you. So we decided that we would put in the City Hall, 735 Anacapa Street. So what we came up with is that City Hall has 220 antennas and 17 towers within a 2-mile radius of that building alone. Next. So this gives you a listing that Antenna Search will show you where these antennas are, how far away they are, who they belong to. So this actually starts at 1 and it ends at 123 because some of these are multiple groupings on one tower. So it's a really good tool to know, to use, to know where you are within the exposure range. Next. So will your street be next? These are more towers in Santa Barbara. Here's 150 feet from a home. This is Sola and Garden. It's right next to Kids World, about 80 feet away, where people gather and children play. And here's one on Mitchell Terrain, about 40 feet away from the home. Next, please. So do these catch on fire? Yes, they do. And these are pretty amazing pictures. These electromagnetic fires, they burn hotter and faster than natural materials do. And they have to be extinguished with chemicals, not water. And it takes a while for these fires to cool down so that firefighters can come in and fight them. So in our ordinance, we're actually requiring that they put in remote automatic shutoff switches and fire extinguishing systems. So these things can be better controlled. Next, please. So we know, heartbreakingly, that we've got fires and floods, and they are very, very visible disasters. The house that you see burning up on the far left belonged to a client of mine. And it was a heartbreaking situation there. So next. So this is the invisible disaster of our time. And we may not be seeing it right now, but it is extremely foreseeable. And I want to spend a little time on this graphic. Here is a cell tower that we have seen the likes of, and all the radiation coming out of that antenna in a 360-degree orb. If you look to the left, there's a little child walking all by himself, and he's miserable. He's depressed, he's upset, he's isolated. That's one of the symptoms on the emotional plane that happens from RFR. Especially when we are radiated 24/7, 365. These are long-term effects. If you look at the middle here, where it looks like a brother is fighting with another brother and a sister is watching, this is punching this little person out. Again, this is about anger and irritability, and just the general upset that RFR will cause within the body. And the same you see over to the right with the two gentlemen having an argument. Sadly enough, also, you see the birds falling out of the sky. RFR penetrates the bodies of small flying creatures, the birds, the bees, bugs. It also penetrates plants. And it has been known to kill bees and birds in very, very high numbers. So this is excessive radiated power, and it's 25 million times more than we need for a 5-bar reception on our cell phone. So the health effects are many and multiple, and we'll be going through some more of those a little bit later. Next, please. So we were wrong once before. We were wrong about lead, we were wrong about cigarettes, and we were wrong about asbestos. So now that we know that these are dangerous, Santa Barbara is now a no smoking city, and you will see the signs posted around the city in various areas. Next, please. So here we go again. We have got 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G. And these exposures to this man-made radiation, which we call radio frequency radiation, is an exposure that is absolutely adverse to the human body. There is nothing about it that is in harmony with the body. And there are thousands of scientific papers and articles and white papers on the topic of the RFR harms, and the science is well established. So here we are going again into another environmental hazard that will cause harm to countless lives and countless biological forms. Next, please. So we ask the question, is wireless technology a Trojan horse? Well, we do know that it is a stealth technology. There's a lot about it that's not being told us on our TV ads. It's a lot of whiz-bang excitement about what 5G will do, but there is an underbelly under the Trojan horse that once it starts climbing into our society, its harms are going to be multiple. Next. So the biological harms from continuous RF radiation, they have direct neurological, cardiovascular, reproductive, and blood harms. The blood-brain barrier is one of the areas that is broken by radio frequency radiation. And the leading scientists are pushing the International Agency for Research on Cancer, that's IARC, to reclassify RF, and EMR stands for electromagnetic radiation, exposures from a group 2B possible carcinogen to a group 1 definite human carcinogen. And right now, the World Health Organization is working on that reclassification. One of the things that RF EMR exposures do is they suppress melatonin, which causes us to have disrupted sleep. And it's also destructive to our antioxidant bodies. And our immune systems take enormous hits. So they are severely harmed by RFR. And this honestly is an involuntary 24/7, 365 exposure. And we can all play a part in reducing our exposures. Next. So we ask, why have the International Firefighters Association fought for the removal of cell towers for 19 years and more? Because the SPECT scan on the brains of several firefighters, I think there were 8 of them, living and working near the cell towers, indicated severe brain damage in the amygdala. But they suffered from anesthesia-like sleep where they woke up drugged, and they were barely able to be responsive for 911 calls. They suffered from continuous headaches, extreme fatigue, cognitive impairment. They were getting lost on the streets that they knew extremely well. And in an emergency, you can imagine how dangerous that is. They were unable to sleep. They had depression and anxiety, unexplained anger, and immunosuppression. Next, please. So this slide is a little bit daunting, but basically it's a power output scale and the microwatts per meter squared. And when we measure radio frequency, we measure them in microwatts per meter squared. So the higher the microwatts, the greater the damage. So we can start off with just, look at this tiny 0.000.1 or 1 point microwatts, and it can alter brainwaves. And then 5 bars on a cell phone, that's only 0.002 microwatts. That can cause sleep disorders. We get up to 30, we have weakness, fatigue, pain, 100, human cessation. We keep going all the way up, child leukemia, microwave hearing. Now, some people hear the microwaves in their ears as tinnitus. And of course, we have our impaired motor functions, childhood leukemia, but going down further, leukemia, skin, melanoma, bladder cancers, impaired memory, and then all the way up to severe cancers. And the FCC allows 10 million microwatts per meter squared, and far less than their safety standards are very serious biological and health consequences. Next, please. So some of the biological effects are DNA strand breakage, it's genotoxicity. The voltage-gated calcium channels are locked open and it causes high anxiety inside the cells. There's oxidative stress. Oxygen species are increased in free radical activity. We have antioxidant enzymes that are altered, increased nitrogen in the body, cell membrane interference, and an increase in gliomas, especially in heavy cell phone users. I mentioned the broken blood-brain barrier. There's red blood cell clumping, hormonal malfunction, loss of thyroid function, melatonin loss, mitochondrial ATP production. That's our basic energy. There's interference there that causes cell aging, slow detoxification. It interferes with our healthy bacteria. It causes destruction there and powerful impaired immunity. Next, please. So the health effects, and so are any of you experiencing any of these symptoms? Migraines, dizziness, nausea, loss of articulation, loss of coordination, inflammation, ringing in the ears, ceasing when away from radio frequencies, pressure in the ears, loss of immediate memory, loss of comprehension and retention, loss of focus, headaches, fatigue, disrupted sleep, restless leg syndrome, joint and muscle pain, heart palpitations, arrhythmia, stinging, dry and itchy skin, muscle cramps, eye fatigue, vision disorders, cataracts, irritability, unprovoked sudden anger outbursts, anxiety, depression, and lethargy. And this is just a list of some of the symptoms. Next, please. Here's a picture of the DNA strand breaks that are well established. Next, please. So we want to tell you that the bioeffects from RF radiation has been well established. There are between lead, asbestos, and cigarettes, the studies combined there, those studies combined are less than the number of studies on the bioeffects from RF radiation. So some of our favorite and trusted sites are the Environmental Health Trust. The Bio Initiative is one of the first and most comprehensive reports of peer-reviewed studies on RFR damage. And Physicians for Safe Technology is another great site that you can find great information on, as well as EMF research. Next, please. One of the problems or the harms from RFR are property values, because multiple surveys are concluding that a 20 to 30% devaluation of homes with antennas in close proximity is happening on a regular basis. And a 2014 survey by the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy found that 94% of its respondents said cell towers and antennas in a neighborhood or in a building would impact how interested they would be in a property and how much they would pay for it. So for more information on this rather significant problem, we suggest going up to EH Trust, cell phones, towers, lower property values. There's documented research there. Next, please. So one of the solutions that we are offering to our city is the fiber optic to the premises. Fiber optics is actually from cell tower to cell tower. We're going to have at least 8 miles of that in our town. And they go to the curb, but they don't go to the premises. But fiber optics is the superior broadband service. It is safe, fast, clean, secure, private, durable, and energy efficient. And it really is the way to go. And it absolutely completely eliminates any fire hazards. Next, please. So question, do you value your privacy? I have something to share with you from Scott McCullough, who is an attorney in Texas, who is a specialist in this area. He says that what industry does not tell the public is that, at least in the beginning, the 5G business case centers on corporate and government. And it depends on models that give rise to significant individual privacy concerns. So for example, streaming video is mentioned a lot with 5G. But somehow telecom admits to say that a very large amount of that will be surveillance video from wireless cameras in public areas that silently capture every move and record faces and license plates for future identification. The network will also have advanced capabilities that precisely identify and record the location of every user device, including privately owned IoT devices. And IoT stands for the Internet of Things. And those can be in your refrigerators and in children's toys. And sometimes they will capture content. but they will capture immense amounts of transactional data from each device. So all this personal information will be available for correlation, identification, and sale to third parties, including the government. So 5G will lead to more intrusive tracking and private data exploitation by large and mostly unseen companies and the government. So the early money for 5G will come from surveillance and the sale of people's private information. So do we want this? Do we value our privacy? So these are some of the things that we are standing up to stop. Next, please. So the telecoms have taught our public officials to believe and to say our hands are tied, and our attorney is going to address this issue in his talk tonight. Next, please. So what are Santa Barbara City's duties and obligations to its people? They must protect our public health, safety, and welfare. They have to protect our property values and the quiet enjoyment of our streets. They need to provide 911 emergency calls from the streets, calling and texting from the streets. That is not data or video downloads, and the efficient use of energy. These are the city's obligations. Next, please. The cell towers that we are looking at having deployed across our city are extreme energy consumers. They are using massive amounts of voltage and wattage. They're very, very energy dense. And in fact, even China now is starting to shut their 5G towers down from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And because they are so energy consumptive, they're proving to be impractical. So we are here now with the City of Santa Barbara draft Small Wireless Facilities Ordinance, which we worked very diligently to get the city to do. It took many months for it to come into existence. And we are very happy that we have it now and are able to put in revisions and amendments coming from both SafeTech and from you. So the written public comments are due on Friday, January 15th, 2021. And we are being asked to email them to John Doimus, the Assistant City Attorney. And we want you to CC your council members and the mayor and info@SafeTechSBC. So we know who you are and what you have said and how we can respond to you as well. And we're going to go through all the details, the talking points, and email information up on our website. Next, please. So other cities that have protective ordinances, you can see are Mill Valley, Petaluma, City of Calabasas, Los Altos, and there are many, many more, but we thought you might really like to know who else is participating in this nationwide, thousands of organizations strong to control, regulate, and mitigate this rollout of absolutely never before done in history radiation over our lives. And we are not even talking about the satellites they're launching, which will also beam 5G from space. That being that they would have over 7 million Earth stations to transceive those frequencies. That means our skies are filled with RF, as well as our streets, our atmosphere, and our homes. And we haven't even spoken about all the devices that we have inside of our homes that radiate radio frequency radiation. Next, please. So here are some healthy family tips for safer technology. I just mentioned our devices. So we're saying that you turn these devices off when you are not using them. Hardwire everything that you can. Hardwire your computer. Put your cell phone on airplane mode. Turn it off when you're not using it. Just check on it every once in a while as you need to. Keep a distance from all of these instruments because they're radiating very powerful microwaves. We want you to work offline more often. That's really hard to do, particularly since we're all forced to go online. But if we have to do that, I know that I'm completely hardwired. I'm also wearing the LED blue light blocker glasses. This blocks the harmful blue and green light that comes off of the computer screen. It causes eye damage. We are having you to use a corded mouse, hardwire everything that you can. So remember that distance is your friend. We want to reduce your exposure, and we want to shut down as often as we can and turn on only as needed. Next, please. So here we are making the invisible visible and audible. And it looks like there were a couple of slides that didn't somehow come in here unless they're coming later. But these are wonderful instruments for measuring the amount or the power density of the microwave radiation that you're getting in your house and outside. And also it will give you an audio signal of what these frequencies actually are sounding like. So the meters will actually transcribe the signal into an audio signal. And it will be very shocking when you start to hear what these things really sound like. And then it makes sense. No wonder the body will react the way it does. No wonder the blood-brain barrier gets damaged. No wonder the cells react in tremendous tension and anxiety. Because if we could truly hear this, we would all go mad, sincerely. Next, please. So we are asking you and inviting you actually to take action along with us. We are asking you to sign up on our email list to get the latest updates, the local news, safe technology tips and calls to action. We'd love you to get educated, not for us, for your sake, for your children's sake, for your parents' sake, for your relatives' sake. And get involved because this is your life. It's our life. And it's not going to be the same. If this gets rolled out, our lives are going to be altered for the rest of our lives. And we won't be able to turn this future back. If we regulate it now, we will be able to control this and even bring in new technologies that are more harmonious and safer and sounder for us. So get involved, let your neighbors know, put the word out. We're asking you to write letters and make public comments. Join our advocacy team. We're actually, I think we're kind of fun. We work hard, but we are definitely a good team. We love each other. We have a lot of reason to regard each other. And so we invite you to come join us. Come join the team, join the work, the boots on the ground, because we're making a difference. It's exciting. And City Council actually has a great deal of respect for us. And that is a very good thing to join up with. So send an email to info@safetechsbc.org, and we'd love to bring you in. And if none of this appeals to you or you can't do that, we are raising funds to pay our wonderful attorney for his work. He is going to be taking this ordinance all the way across to its adoption, which means he'll have to go to the mat for some of our asks because we are asking for some very specific, very strong protections for all of us and you. And he's going to need to be able to articulate that and sway the City Council to adopt them. So we're asking you to support us in this drive to pay for our attorney. We've already raised well over $6,000 and we're on our way, and we would love to see this go all the way through to pay him for everything that he is doing. Next, please. So we would love to have you join hundreds of our active members in the Safe Technology for Santa Barbara County Facebook group. The link is here. It's also up on our site. We'd love for you to like our new Facebook page. We'd also like you to chime in on our nextdoor.com group. It's very, very active, and there's a lot that is being said there. Everyone's opinion matters, and it's really a delight to be involved over there. And please follow us on our Telegram channel. Next, please. Okay, so guys, I get to introduce our star of the evening is Mark Pollock. And Mark, I'm asking you to actually do your own bio because you're the only one that knows it as well as you do. So may I introduce you to Mark Pollock?
Well, good evening, Miriam.
Good evening, Mark, and everyone. Yes.
So a little bit of background about me, just so you know where I'm coming from. I've been a lawyer for about 40 some odd years. After 40, you stop counting. During that entire time, I've practiced almost exclusively environmental law. I was the first full-time environmental prosecuting attorney in California back in the early 80s. I worked as a deputy district attorney for the county of Napa and then created the environmental crime unit for the county of Solano. I trained about 300 federal prosecutors to prosecute environmental crime through federal EPA. And then in 1992, I rolled out of government and created my own practice in Napa, California, with my partner, Evangeline James. And we've been doing environmental litigation on behalf of citizens groups since 1992. So this is not an unknown area for me. Tonight, I do have limited time, and what I wanted to address with you, most importantly, was the slide that Miriam showed with the bound hands, because telecom companies come to Santa Barbara and tell them the fiction that they must rubber stamp the request for a permit to deploy small cell technology in the community. And the reason that they give is federal preemption. So we'll start with the Telecommunications Act. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 can be found at 47 US Code 332. And in 332 subsection 7, Congress in 1996, way before the current cell technology even existed, put language in that act that said that no city or state could prevent the permitting or deployment, the maintenance or modification of any small cell technology on the basis of the environmental effects of RF radiation. So it's important to consider that language. What has happened is industry has said health effects are part of environmental impact. No case law in the Western Circuit of the United States, certainly not in the Ninth Circuit, has taken the position that health effects equate to environmental effects. Generally speaking, if you think about it rationally, health effects are things that occur internally in the human body, whereas environmental effects are things that occur externally, outside the human body. Notwithstanding that, there is one case out of the Second Circuit back in on the East Coast that seems to indicate that health effects would be covered under the umbrella of environmental effects. The second portion of 47 US Code that concerns us is what's called the effective prohibition language. And what that essentially says is that no city like Santa Barbara shall enact any language in an ordinance that effectively prohibits the deployment of small cell technology in that community. So you can't outlaw it. You can't prohibit it. Having said that, I am proposing to make certain changes to this small cell ordinance. This ordinance is 42 pages in length. Don't let that deter you from reading through it. It's not a difficult read. If you look through the definition sections and then come back to them if you don't understand a term, you can get through this thing in about a half an hour. Well, depending on how fine you want to tune your reading. But you can understand it. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand it. And what we propose to do with this document is to go back to the city and untie their hands. We want to go back to the city and say, there are reasonable ways that you can regulate this technology. One of the ways that this ordinance does that, and does that quite effectively, is it tiers and rates the areas in which small cell technology can be placed in the community from least desirable to most desirable. So the least desirable placement is outside someone's bedroom window in a residential zone. The most desirable place is next to a public highway or freeway in a manufacturing district or zone. Then less desirable would be a commercial zone. Then less desirable would be a zone that contains multi-unit housing. Then less desirable would be next to schools or public parks and so on. So the ordinance already does that. The ordinance very effectively does that, and it gets down to the minutia of actually rating the types of streets on which this technology can be placed. We've attempted to add language, though, that will do more than simply tier the placement of the technology. One of the key things that we're working on, and I was discussing this with Miriam this afternoon, was to talk to the city about requiring the telecom company not to power up any of the antennas with power beyond what they need to provide effective service for cell phones, because they have sold this technology to the community on the basis that it is necessary to provide better cell phone service. Now, we understand that this is a Trojan horse. What I mean by that is that they're selling it as enhanced 4G meaning fourth generation technology to give you better, faster cell phone service. What they're actually doing is putting up technology that can be powered up later for what was described by Miriam as the Internet of Things. This is 5G. This is the next generation. Once they get one of these antennas up every 500 feet, then they can be in a position to power these things up to operate everything from self-driving cars to talking refrigerators. And the purpose of that will be to sell the information that they provide and that they garner from that technology to industry for big money, so that you'll be able to walk out of your house, this is what they project, and stand on the street corner, and your phone will say, "Good morning, Mark. Where do you want to go?" And you say, "I want to go to Whole Foods Market." And Uber in a self-driving car will arrive and recognize you through facial recognition and say, "Good morning, Mark, get in the car." And you'll get in the car, and the car will drive you to Whole Foods Market, where you will walk into the market, and the market will say, "Good morning, Mark. What do you need today? Your refrigerator says you're a little low on milk." This is the world they're intending to create with this technology. But it's not only to provide you with these quote unquote conveniences, it's to provide the information about you to the people that want to sell you the milk. that want to provide you with the self-driving car and charge you for that. So that the technology is intended to anticipate your needs and to provide for those needs. But that can't be done with 0.1 watt of cell power, which is all this tower needs to provide you with a 5-bar phone call. No, they're going to use 16,000 watts to do this technology. And so, since that is the ceiling set by the FCC for a safe level in these cell phones, in the cell phone towers, then they will intend to power up once they want to move to the next generation of technology. So anticipating this, we intend to write language into the ordinance that limits them to 0.1 watt of power for cell phone use. And that if they want to increase the wattage later, they'll have to come back to the city for a modification of their permit to increase the amount of power that they can use to operate the technology. Having said that, it's important to understand that one of the other things that the industry is intending to do is to provide Strand application of the technology. So this will be prohibited under the ordinance. Strand application is where they take the antenna and they hang it on the wires rather than putting it up on top of a pole. So we've proposed this, and I believe it's been accepted in Malibu, and I know it's been accepted in Rancho Santa Fe has outlawed Strand application. And the reason for that is that you are required to have a permit for this technology if you place it on a public utility pole in the public right of way. If you place it on a street light, as an example, you put this antenna on top of a street light. The street light is owned by the city of Santa Barbara. The city of Santa Barbara has a right to require what's called a master license agreement for leasing city property to the telecom to put up this piece of equipment. They have to pay the city $250 a year or whatever the city charges for rental of that space. But if they hang it on the wires in between the poles, now they don't need that master license agreement because it's not on city property. The wires are utility property. So this has to be in the ordinance to prevent that from happening. In addition, we put in special language regarding insurance and indemnity. And in insurance, it's important that the city maintains that the licensee, Verizon Wireless as an example, maintains a policy of insurance, general liability insurance, that lists the city as an additional insured. This is a fire hazard. This is electrically powered. If this thing blows over in the middle of a storm and causes a conflagration, the devastation from a wildfire in this area can be much greater than a $2 million general liability policy. So we're requesting a $7 million policy. We're also requesting that that policy of insurance does not have a pollution exclusion clause, which most general liability policies have. And the reason for that is that radio frequency radiation is listed as a pollutant. So we want to ensure that the policy of insurance provided by the telecom covers the potential for physical injury caused by exposure to radiation. This language will also be in the policy. Additionally, the signatory on the application must be the party that will indemnify and hold the city harmless from any lawsuits, because all of this could just break Santa Barbara, depending on the harm that could be caused. So the thrust of this is to keep the wattage low, to keep the placements away from people's residences, to keep the placements away from schools or places where children can congregate, and additionally, to provide adequate insurance and indemnity to make sure that if anybody is intentionally or unintentionally injured by the placement of the technology, that there is wherewithal to compensate them for that damage and that injury. So with that, I think I'm done with my time, Miriam, unless there's any questions for me before I take off.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was wonderful to hear you tonight and to see you. Does anyone have any questions that they wanted to quickly ask him? Because he is definitely at his time now. I
Hearing
don't
none.
think so, Mark. I think
Okay,
you've done
thank you,
a
Miriam.
wonderful job for us. Thank you so
We
very
will, and we'll be in touch on the final language on the limitations.
Absolutely. It's exciting. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Great job, Mark. Thanks.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh, that was really nice to hear him lay that out for us like that. So I believe now, dear people, that we are going to be going over to the Take Action public comment section that Katie Mickey is going to be heading up. We will definitely be checking your questions in the chat box if you put any there, and we will follow up with the Q&A. So, oh, there's someone who's, where did I get my blue light blocking glasses? I'll let you know that when we get to the questions. So, Katie, you are now on, I believe.
All right, one. So we have created a letter template that makes it very easy for you to send your comments to City Council in the language of what that is specific to how we want to speak about this with the City Council. So we've prepared for you in the technical language that you've just been hearing Pollock speak about what are the specific harms that that are affecting us, impacting us through this technology. And so I have created a template, which I think Kimmy's going to be taking us to soon. And essentially it gives you a list of options, kind of a menu of options of things that you can talk about in your letter. So our goal, what is that?
Can you see the website talking points area? Great.
Not
Yes.
yet.
You
Keep
can't
on
see it.
scrolling, please.
Oh, okay.
Keep scrolling. My letter template is below this. So essentially, here it is. Here's the template letter. So this is where you need to send letters. So John Doimus, he's an assistant city attorney. He's asking for us to send letters to him on our call to action around the draft ordinance. And then we want you to CC our mayor and our clerk and all the council members, particularly the council member within your district. And we would love you to CC ourselves as well, so that we know that you have sent your letter in. And then this is the template. So you want to let them know what your relationship is to Santa Barbara. So you don't need to be a resident. You can be a student, a worker, a tourist, somebody that just cares about the city. Everybody's letter counts. And then what is it you value about Santa Barbara in your connection with it? Is it the aesthetics, the environment, the beach, the mountain streams, the culture, the employment, the education? Why do you love Santa Barbara? And then what do you object about the unnecessary proliferation of small wireless telecom facilities in Santa Barbara? So I've listed here many different objections to how this is impacting us. So we have thousands of scientific studies that demonstrate that there's biological and harmed. incurred by these 4G, 5G infrastructures that are being deployed. Our city's being densified with them, and they're too close to homes, too low to the ground. We don't have proof that there's a significant gap in service. And so that's a really important piece of languaging, that these towers are being installed without necessarily a justification for them. Residents are not being notified. We have much higher energy excessive power output, which we just heard Pollock talk about, that we don't need to have this huge amount. Is 25 million times higher than what's necessary to meet the telecom law, which is 5 bars on a cell phone. And we're harming those who have RF sensitivity, and we're not accommodating them, which the American Disabilities Act requires. They lower property values, we've just heard, and they're fire hazards. They are going to be providing surveillance. They're harming children we have one right next to Kids World, and we don't have sufficient liability insurance. So those are options that I've compiled together that you might want to talk about. And then here is a specific languaging that you can put into your letter about what we would like to see added or changed in the telecom ordinance. So they're very specific, precise language that gives your letter meat in terms of what it is that we want to see have happen. So we want to require a proof of gap in service. We want to require the antenna installations be placed in discouraged zones rather than in the preferred zones, and unless there's no feasible alternative. We want to require that they operate at minimum effective power. And so again, there are many asks here, and so it's all available on the website for you to pick and choose the asks that you want to see added to your letter. There's something called a wireless antenna needs test, and this is taking in the whole spectrum of effective radiating power, and it would require that the city test every 6 months. And this would be a neutral third party, an RF engineer, and the wireless industry would have to cover it. And that would be determining whether or not we actually need more towers or not. And then to require applicants to submit a NEPA review, which is that's another requirement of the Federal Communications Act. And as well as to the industry has a propaganda piece right on the second paragraph of our draft ordinance, which is that the industry's goals is to have 30 to 60 carriers times 30 to 60 antennas per carrier. And if you say we have roughly 4 carriers in our town, which we have master licensing agreements with, times the square miles in our town, that's 20.9. We're talking 2,500 to over 5,000 antennas is their goal to be installed in the city of Santa Barbara alone. And we want to have a 5-year master plan for this rollout. We want to require that the towers be installed no closer than 1,500 feet. Oh, excuse me, than 1,000 feet, but we want residents to be notified within 1,500 feet, so that they can then attend hearings and they can object. And we want signage at eye level. We saw how well they are camouflaged, and how we not necessarily know that we are in the presence of an antenna. So we want no concealment. And we want our parks and recreation centers in discouraged locations. Right now, they are put into the preferred locations in the ordinance. We want to require that the applicants provide sufficient insurance, and we have two different aspects of that in terms of not having the pollution exclusion and having the capacity to cover the claims. And then we want to have a full financial information and disclosure of the board of directors that are on the applicant's firm, because they have a business practice of having essentially shell companies that form the master licensing agreements with our city. And then those shell companies don't have the financial backing to handle a serious lawsuit. So those are all bullet points that you could choose from in your letter. And our request is that you write one and that you get your friends, your family, your neighborhood. We have towers in our neighborhood, and Ron and I have gone out and walked and informed the neighbors and let them know what this is, and to inform them that they can write letters and participate in this draft ordinance, which is a very special opportunity that is before us now in the next week and a half. So I'm going to turn it over to Kimmy and have Kimmy just give you an overview of the website.
Thanks, Katie. Awesome. So much great work everyone's putting in, just putting all these things together. Okay, I'm gonna take you around the website. This is one of the pages, nice and long here, and it's under the Take Action tab in our on our top menu here. So I'm gonna start back over here at our home screen with all the fun stuff. We have a lot of buttons going on here. We'd love you to sign up for the newsletter if you're not already on our list, and look for our MailChimp. It might possibly pop into your spam. Maybe give it a little look over there. We have a media release that we put out with a lot of great information. So this is something that you know, people can read about us and learn about what we're up to. And it's a great thing to review where we're at. And let's see, what else do we have here? We don't need to register for the Zoom anymore because we're here. Thank you for coming. And this is another link that'll take you to the Take Action page. And then we also have one for the county too. So we're Safe Technology for Santa Barbara County, and we're working in tandem on that. The city is at the top of the list right now because of the deadlines and what's happening. And everything that we do for the city is also going to connect with what we do with the county. It's the same type of asks and things that we want. And also we have this wonderful donate button. So if you are inclined, have some extra money around to put towards this cause, it is investing in the future generations of Santa Barbara County. And we have a wonderful fiscal sponsor and all the different ways to donate. You can directly donate to us, or you can also go through our fiscal sponsor, Inspiration, if you would like a tax-deductible donation. So all of that is here. And if you have any questions or would like to do it another way, just email us at info@safetechsbc.org. And let's see, what else can I show you here? On the website, we just have a lot of great information and we're adding to it all the time. It's a very deep and wide subject. And so we have our key issues here. You know, we're talking about telecoms being uninsurable, the property values, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, lots of information there, and all about the science and health too, with the symptoms and biohealth effects. You can find that here. So that's pretty much it for our website. It's pretty basic and it will be growing, and visit early and often and share it along with everybody. And it'd be really wonderful if you could join us on our social media platforms and chime in. I know not everybody is on Nextdoor or Facebook, but maybe you're more of a Nextdoor person. So chime in there, and we would love some more help as we connect with other neighbors. A lot of people have no idea this is going on. So please share the word on that. Is there anything else I'm missing, you guys?
No, I think you've done well. And I know that we've got Q&A coming up here really quickly, but I think it would be fun for everyone to meet the whole team.
Yeah, why don't we do that? I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
All right.
So everybody, you can go into like a gallery mode, I guess, to see us all.
There we go. Yes.
Got a couple more people popping in. There we go.
There's,
Hey, team.
all right. So Anodillo and Leslie Weinstock, right? Kent Epperson. Hallelujah. Katie Mickey and Kimmy Van Dyke.
Everyone.
So want to give a quickie on yourselves here, what you're doing, or shall we go into Q&A? We have just about 25 minutes left.
We could do it very quickly, I think.
Yeah, sounds good.
Can't you start?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Kent Epperson, and I've been with the group since it first formed about 1.5 years ago. And I bring to the table some experience working with local governments because my work is with the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments. And so I'm very interested in the process in which these permits are approved and public, given good opportunity to provide their input. So that's my main focus. Thank you.
Katie.
In addition to the letter writing campaign, I have been also involved in the public comment campaign. So, so we have been speaking before City Council and the County Board of Supervisors for over 1 year now. And we've had some, out of that, we've formed relationships. So we've had many private meetings that have followed with our City Council and the County Board of Supervisors. And so that's all part of relationship building and helping to educate them. They obviously have a lot on their plate that they are responsible for. And so we are a citizens advocacy group to educate them so that they can work on our behalf. And so we would invite you to join us. That's on Tuesday mornings, the County Board of Supervisors, and Tuesday afternoons is the City Council. That's another great way that you can participate.
And Leslie.
Hi, I'm Leslie Weinstock. My background is in the medical field, and I'm a longtime environmental activist. I've been with this group a little over 1 year. I've been the main scheduler of our meetings with public officials, and I have been very dedicated to this cause.
Kimmy Van Dyke.
Hey everyone. Yes, met Miriam back in May of 2019 at our first meeting, and we've been inseparable, and the group is growing, and it's just such a pleasure to work with such caring people. We really want to make a difference for future generations. My main thing that I do is the graphic design, website, flyers, social media, and just connecting people. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Kimmy. Last but not least, Miss Ann O'Deal.
Hi, and I've been involved with the group for I think about 1 year now, and I'm a local mom, and I have some young children, and that has been the densification of all the small cell towers that we see now in the city and in the county has been a great concern of mine. And even just when I could take my kids to school, I've been noticing more and more towers just along the way, and some in my own neighborhood, and some near parks like Kids World downtown Santa Barbara. Now there's one tower right there radiating the kids constantly while they are playing on the playground, and that's just a big concern. And now we see the telecom industry really putting a lot of pressure to add more and more everywhere around the city and the county itself. So I live in the county myself. I'm not in the city, but I've been supporting the group in all the city efforts, and we're also working closely with the county, with the Board of Supervisors, the district supervisors, to work on the county ordinance also, which needs a lot of work, because right now the county ordinance allows small cell facilities to be installed just about anywhere. It could be installed, you could wake up tomorrow and find one installed right outside your bedroom window. So that's something that we're really focusing on, and we need more. We need people to support the cause and talk to the city council, talk to the Board of Supervisors. And right now the immediate need is definitely to send letters to the city council, the Santa Barbara City Council, regarding the ordinance that is up for review right now. So we need everybody's help.
Thank you, Anne. And I'm Miriam, and I am a certified electromagnetic radiation specialist. I have to apologize, my brains have been fried by how much work we've done over this last week and longer. So I hope the presentation was understandable tonight. And I'm also a building biologist. So this field is not my natural field. I became stricken with radio frequency illness. I didn't know what it was. I had been noticing over a period of time that I was getting sicker and sicker. And only when I installed a brand new, great big router next to my head and have all of my symptoms explode to such a degree that I fell to the floor, did I realize that there was something to do with a router and my sickness. And that put me on the great trail to find the Building Biology Institute and to discover the world of RFR sickness and many other forms of illness. So this is a very powerful environmental pollutant that is affecting millions of people at every level. And the extreme cases are up to over 13 million now, just in certain areas of the United States. So that's all I have to share for tonight. And I think, and if you have any questions, it would be great to hear from you. I think we have a few in the chat room.